In this episode, once again, we speak to Byron Wolfe. Byron's gift for translating the complexities of business financial principles with a focus on small businesses is easily understood. Communication has made him one of the most highly sought after financial and business consultants. He is a CFO of Inc. 5000 company and is a fractional CFO of various companies with annual revenues from 3 to 25 million. His certification in crypto, NFT, and the metaverse space has led to many projects with DAOs and crypto companies, and he's considered one of the first experts in crypto tax strategy. And in today's episode, we're speaking to Byron about profit over revenue. Let's find out. Welcome. This is Gull Khan, your money mindset expert. And today, once again, we have the pleasure and the honor of speaking to Byron Wolfe. Welcome, Byron.
Hey, thank you for having me on again. I love it.
It was a fascinating conversation with you, Byron. We had a wonderful, wonderful time, and we had to have you back together for Money Talkies. But before we start, everyone's heard your intro once again. They know what kind of a superstar you are, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
Yeah, so we are a full service CPA firm. We focus on fractional CFO services. Fractional CFO services are essentially hiring that high-level CFO, Chief Financial Officer, for your business to help you to make really good decisions within your business concerning your accounting and your finance. So all the money in your business, being able to make really solid decisions there. So we're going to help you to set up the framework so that you're setting good budgets, you're setting good forecasts, you're paying attention to your cash flow, and you can read your profit and loss statement, your balance sheet, all your financial statements. We want you to have a full understanding of those so that you can utilize these amazing tools to grow, scale your business, become way more profitable than you are now, to essentially work less time to make more money. So that's what we do. We're a fractional CFO, full service CPA firm.
Wonderful. And today we're talking about profit over revenue. Now, that's a brilliant, brilliant topic. And being an entrepreneur, this is always, it's one close to my heart. Now, tell me from your point of view, why is profit more important than revenue? I'm gonna add a question to this. Why? Let me add a bit to it, because I recently heard about Amazon. So when Amazon first started, they were in a loss for a number of years. Amazon was not making money, and they laughed about it, how the money would come and they would make less money than they did in previous years, but it all paid off. And now it's a multi, almost I think a trillionaire company. So explain to me, when people say, well, see, profits aren't everything, sometimes you have to just build it up and scale it up. Explain to me, why you think profit is more important than revenue, and why Amazon is an anomaly.
Yeah, no, of course. And I love that. So that is the perfect example for this. So the reason I think profit is so much more important than revenue is profit is what you feed your family, right? Profit is the dollars that you get to retain to like make your dreams happen, and they're the dollars that are left over after the end of the day. You've made the money through revenue, the sales, whatever. You've covered all your expenses. You've taken care of your employees. You've met your obligations. The dollars that are left over, the profit, is what you get to keep as a business owner. And that's how you can make things happen for your family, make things happen for yourself, really start to build that personal life. That is the ultimate goal of any business, is to create a better life for yourself and those that are around you. So that's why I think profit is so important. Like, we have to focus on the profit. If we're just growing revenue, we're just growing our bragging rights, So profit is the piece that, to me, is the real benchmark. Like, how much money are you keeping? Because that's what's important. When you ask people how much they make as an employer, they generally going to give you the pre-tax, amount. But in reality, what's important is the money that's left over after taxes are paid, after all the things that are taken care of. What are the dollars that you have to cover your bills, to, have a nice vehicle, live in a nice place, eat nice groceries, whatever? That's the number that's important. So that's why I think profit is so important. Back to the Amazon. And so I love that you brought this one up. So Amazon is constantly fundraising. So a lot of people say, well, they operated a loss. They operated a loss for so many years. Here's the reality. If you're continuously operating at a loss and nobody is covering those losses, your business fails. Your business goes under.
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah.
So what Amazon was doing is they were using that revenue brag to grow this thing, and they were selling the vision on what this was going to look like. And so throughout that process, they're just constantly raising capital. So while their P&L, their profit and loss, which is your revenue, your expenses, and your profit, is showing a negative at the end of the day, that balance sheet is just getting these constant influxes of cash. And so their profit, the money that they're essentially taking home, that they're holding on to, that was living on their balance sheet, not on their profit and loss, because they were selling the vision of how this thing is going to grow. And so we all do that. As entrepreneurs, we do the same thing, right? When we start a business, we're going after sales. We're trying to make as much revenue as we possibly can. It's the brag, right? We'll get our revenue up as high as we can. We're going to, oh, we did $1 million in sales. Oh, we did 5 million. Oh, we did 20 million in sales, right? So, we keep this brag going, but ultimately, if there's not a point upon which the profit starts to occur, that business will fail. I use there's a conversation I had with a client. He had just come from, if you're in the US, you'll know this guy. If you're not, you probably won't. There's a guy named Grant Cardone. He's pretty popular.
I know, everyone knows him. I know him too.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Yeah. So Grant, great guy. We've been to a couple of his events. One of his business partners is a neighbor of mine. So, good guy. I like Grant, but he sells a 10X program, right? We're going to 10X your revenue. We're going to 10X your business. We're going to 10X your growth, blah, blah, blah. So 10X, 10X, 10X. So I was talking to a guy, he'd just come from an event. We're having this conversation. He's like, yeah, I'm hyped. We're going to 10X this thing. It's going to be amazing, blah, blah, blah. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's look at the real numbers. I said, you're currently doing $2 million in revenue, right? He's like, yep, we're going to 10X it. It's going to be 20 million. I got the plan. We're going to make this happen. And I said, okay, I hear you. I'm on the same page. I think this is good. I think this is a good intention. I said, but realistically, you're losing $50,000, right? On your profit and loss, you're on target to lose another 50,000 this year. You lost 50,000 last year. If we 10X this, my question is, where does the $500,000 come from? And he kind of sits there for a second, confused. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, okay, well, let's simple math. You're going to 10X your revenue. You're going to go from 2 million to 20 million. But that means that your $50,000 loss gets 10X as well. So the 50,000 that you lost this year becomes a $500,000 loss next year. Where does the $500,000 come from? Do you have somebody that's going to pay it? Well, no. Well, I'm not going to have that because we're going to 10X it. No, if you do nothing different, then your loss gets 10X'd as well, right? And that was just kind of like, he was like, how does that work? And I'm like, it's just very simple math. Don't complicate it. It's very simple math. If you do 10 times the revenue, you're going to take on 10 times the expenses, which means you're going to have 10 times the profit or 10 times the loss. So back to Amazon, where does the $500,000 come from? Amazon gets it because they're constantly growing. They're selling the vision, and people are buying into that vision by funding that. They're paying that 500,000, right? They're like, I believe in this company enough. I'll pay the loss. I'll put money into this thing because I see the future. I see how this is going to grow. And that's a capital raise. And so for any company, I don't care what size it is, to grow, you have to put money into this company. And so that's going to come from somewhere. That's going to come internally. So the profit that you make at the end of the year, that has to go back into the business to continue the growth, right? You're going to put more time into it. And keep in mind, time is money, right? Your time is valuable as a business owner. So you're going to have to put more time in it. If you were doing 30 hours before to grow this thing, you're going to have to add hours to that. The 30 hours that got you to where you're at might take you 40 to get to the next level. So you're going to have to put time into that, which means that your time, it should have a value to it. You should be tracking this, but you're putting way more time into this, or somebody's going to have to invest that money, right? And that may be you, it may be friends, family, bootstrapping. Everybody knows what bootstrapping is, right? Friends and family, your own money, or you've got to go to outside people to bring money into it. And so, like, a lot of people talk about Amazon, they're like, well, they operate at a loss, but they see these losses as these phantom, losses that don't really ever need to be paid back or whatever. They are consistently over time, they are getting paid. So Amazon, during this whole process, they were pulling money out of this thing, but it was a part of the additional funding that was coming into this business. And so he doesn't own 100% of this thing anymore because people have had to put money into this, right?
Yeah.
And so his ownership is diluted because he went after the brag. It paid off for Amazon. I will not take that away from him. It's paid off amazingly for him.
Amazingly. I think absolutely amazingly it has.
Yes. He crushed it.
Yeah.
That is an anomaly. You know, like,
but that's what I said. I do agree. It's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It doesn't, that kind of I think it's a gamble. That kind of gamble doesn't necessarily pay off, and it generally doesn't pay off. It just, I do believe that there is a certain element of foresight and where the market was going. I think he's, along with like Steve Jobs, who changed the way we use our phones. I think, I think he came in and, Amazon literally has changed how we actually buy things. I am a big, I buy everything on Amazon. Like anything I want to look, the first place I look is for Amazon. So it's very easy, and it's next day delivery, Prime. It's revolutionized what we expect, how we deal with things, and how we buy things, and how we go ahead, and even lives. I know the very cousin I was talking about earlier, he's got business on it. So there's many people who built their 7-figure businesses based on Amazon. So not only is it providing a service to consumers, it's also giving opportunities to everyday individuals to have these e-commerce businesses which they wouldn't otherwise have. So it is, I think he deserves the praise. I think Amazon has changed everyone's way of operating, and it's impacted a lot of lives. So congratulations to them. But again, they are a massive success because they came in a time it was required. It was like the Industrial Revolution. It was required. But then again, I agree with you. It's an anomaly. It's a one-off. You're not going to get an Amazon every single day. You're not going to pick up an Apple every other day. And I think Apple didn't operate at a loss. I think it was they went down when they got rid of Steve Jobs, and then Steve Jobs came back and he came back up. But with Amazon, it was operating at a loss, and it's the most famous one, and that's one I get quoted the most. But Amazon did it. But Amazon did something it's amazing, but you cannot have that as your benchmark, and he used that as a norm.
Yeah, well, it's and I'm gonna use something. I'm gonna use two things actually from our last podcast. So you would told me you're one of the only females currently in the industry, with the manufacturing.
I know,
right? Yeah. And so being one of the only,
let me say the only female in the CEO role, because there must be females in other roles, I think, especially accounting, but in the CEO role and all the companies that I've seen, I'm the only woman. I don't know any other women in the area. Yeah.
So it's great if you need to point to that, to say, I can do it 100%. There you go. That's where it's at. But you can't say that this is the norm, because now we have one. You're the anomaly that exists. And so you're great for, I guess, like the like, I can do it as well, right? Like, use your story as like the incentive to go after what you want, but don't think that like the industry is different from what it is just because you've done it, right? Exactly. You're the anomaly in that, you're going to be breaking, glass ceilings by going after this. Just because you've done it, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy for the next person. Maybe slightly easier, but I would argue slightly emphasis. I still wouldn't say just because you've done it, it's going to be easy for every woman that comes behind you, or even more specifically, every brown woman that comes behind you may not be able to make the same moves that you did, if I'm allowed to use that term, but it's great for like, okay, yes, I can do it. Somebody's done it. Like, let's go. So if you want to use Amazon for, I don't have to make it, I'm going to sell the dream, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, 100%. But like, do it smart. Don't just do it because Amazon did it. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the normal, or that just because you follow that model, you're going to make it happen. So I would caution people against that. Like, use Amazon as incentive to, okay, like, I can grow a massive community. I can redefine what it means to be an intrapreneur, because kind of what you were saying about these people that created these 7-figure businesses within, they're selling on Amazon, but that doesn't exist without Amazon, right?
Exactly. And so it doesn't, their business would not exist without Amazon. Simple as that.
No. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. So to me, that's intrapreneur. Like, you're an entrepreneur, but your entrepreneurship is based completely on another system, another business, whatever. Like, intrapreneurs are more generally people that work for somebody, so they have an employer mentality, but they're building a business within the business so that they can share in that success. I would argue that the people you're talking about on Amazon, same concept. They just don't actually work for Amazon, but it only exists inside Amazon. So intrapreneur. And if you're worried about being an entrepreneur and you're worried about like taking that big step and like being 100% on your own, intrapreneurship is a great way to tip your toes in the water. Find something that you believe in, find somebody, probably preferably, that you believe in, and look for that opportunity. Like me personally, that's all I want. I love that conversation. Our division leads are intrapreneurs. They make great money, but the base is okay, right? But every one of them can sell any product in our whole entire company. Everybody is cross-trained to sell them, and they all rely on one another to help with that process. If somebody in the tax division is trying to, they know that their client would benefit from fractional CFO services, they can go to that division and ask for help, and they're going to help, and they can sell it. So they have all these different areas that they can sell, they can add to our clients' experiences if they need it, right? We're not just selling stuff to be selling, but if they need it and they recognize it, they're cross. They can do those sales. So they make great money because they are achieving great things. It's not just a big base and then we just hope that they produce work. They're expected to produce good work. And so, but that's the intrapreneur mentality that I think is so important. And I think that we're headed there. One of the big reasons that Amazon did as well is really a really bad thing. COVID was horrible for a lot of people. I hate that it happened. It is bad. But COVID created the environment that
thrived. Amazon thrived on, absolutely thrived on.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, you talk about putting yourself in the right place at the right time. Amazon did it with that.
Oh,
right?
100%.
Yeah, they crushed it. So, so like being able to create those environments is huge. So if you can find that and take advantage of it, you're going to do well. And while I am heavy profit over revenue, because I think 99.9% of the time, that's exactly what you need to focus on. There is the random Amazon where building the revenue is important, but keep in mind, there's the flip side. Every one of those losses has to be covered somehow. Yeah. So every time that loss is covered, you're giving away a small piece of your company, and if you're one of those people that talks about your business as it's my baby, you're giving away a piece of your baby every time you take a loss because it has to be covered somewhere, and so while Amazon is it's a great example, but
I was just thinking of that. I think so. I'm a lone wolf. I really am. I think it comes from my genes as well because I'm a Rajput in Punjabi terms. So I'm from in the South Continent, and my caste is Rajput. And even though I don't believe in caste system as such, I think that you have traits within your blood, and I think I am one of those. So I definitely am the ruler type of mentality. So I've tried, but I failed miserably when it comes to partnerships. And so I'm a lone wolf. I do everything on my own. And when people say you're the only, yes, I'm the solo owner. So so whatever. It's always I don't go with partners as such. I think I would struggle to give a bit away of my autonomy and what I want to do, because a lot of the times I go against the grain. I use my intuition a lot. Even if I fall flat on my face, I'm like, it's okay. Listen, then brush off. Let's carry on. But I have that mentality of doing it, but doing it the way that I intuitively feel, and it has to be authentically aligned with my values. I really do. For example, we recently gave, on the 1st of April, pay rises, and we are not as profitable at the moment because we've taken over and things have happened. But I was dead adamant that we're going to give them raises, and we did. Some of them a lot more than, I think double the amount of inflation, some of them much as 16%, which is unheard of. But the salaries were so low previously that I felt I had to. Now, had I have a partner or somebody who had stake in it, I would be obliged to take into their consideration with their opinions. And I would struggle with that. I think I would struggle with that more than anything else. Like, I want to pay my people. I want to give that my team. Why can't I? Why am I not allowed to? Oh, well, it'll hit the revenue. Yes, it will. It will hit not the revenue, it'll hit the profit. Yes, it will. But then we need to pay our people well for them to be happy. So it's those values that are so important to me. For me, the way I run, the way I treat my people, the way I treat my my team members. I like to call them team members. I think I would struggle with that if I had someone else undue influence on me, or I felt like I had to take into their their because they've invested money in my company, I have to now, take their opinion on board, which, I don't know, rightly or wrongly, I take the responsibility and the failures and success on my shoulders alone. But I think
Yeah.
this is why I think it's so important. So, and as I'm looking to scale my business, and I'm looking to build this business, scale it. And I have the dream of being the new Andy Carnegie in the next 10, 15 years. Who knows,
Love it.
Why not?
Yes.
Why not?
Yeah.
Let's manifest that
Yeah.
for now. Why not? If we want to manifest something big like Andrew Carnegie, right? So I want to be the next Andrew
100%.
Carnegie. So I will be looking to scale up. But that means that my first and foremost thoughts is about profit. It's about how we can generate profit. So yes, we have expenses. So when because I come from the online marketing space, I'm like, okay, how do we make more sales? How do we make more sales? Let's make more sales. We've got expenses. I don't really, believe in cutting costs. I'm really, okay, let's increase sales. Let's go out and generate more revenue, So we need to be able to, the overheads remain the same because we put them up anyway, because we increased everything, all the sales and all the salaries anyway. So now we need to increase our sales so we can cover the overheads and we can still be profitable. And that's how I sort of tackle my management accountant, which at times is like literally biting his teeth. Like, what are you doing now, Gull? I'm like, we're doing this. No, we can't. Oh, yes, we can. Let's do this. And every single month, hand touch wood, alhamdulillah. I think every single month thing is, Gull, we're gonna be a loss this month. We haven't had a losing month. Every time we've done well. It's been a little bit, but we've done well, and every month is we're building on the last one, even though our expenses are going up because of increase in salaries and buying more machinery and so forth. But it's because I believe in profit first. But the way I believe in it is, rather than cutting costs, let's go and get more business. Let's go out. So I go and get more business. I speak to more clients. I do more things. I do more lead generation, and I'm building my sales team, and I've invested in that. So if you come from the mentality of, okay, I need to spend more money, but the only way to spend the money is to make more money. So let's go and make some money. And then and in essence, so we are growing organically because we're increasing our revenue, but we're also keeping an eye on the profit, because making sure that we don't let go of that. Understanding that the more revenue we generate, the higher our overall costs. So profit will it will not increase in line with the revenue increase. It has to be matched up. So I think I'm not an accountant, but I'm a business person, an entrepreneur. So I have an eye on the numbers better than some of my peers, because I'm not driven by, oh, we've done this many sales. Okay, what were expenses first? Let's work on that to figure out what our profit is. I mean, then do I know we've been successful? Otherwise, we're just chasing our tails.
No, I agree. And you brought up an amazing point that a lot of people miss. And so I want to expand on this.
Yeah.
So you said, I'm not looking to just cut expenses. And I agree with that 100%. I tell people this all the time. So if you are growing a business and you're improving this business, the dollar amount of your expenses do need to be going up, right? And they're like, well, no, I need to cut costs. I disagree 100%. I want to see the dollar amount continue to go up. I want to see the percentage of revenue of that cost go down. And you can 100% do that exactly the way you said it. So most companies payroll, and again, this can be as low as like, a single digit number. This can be as high as say 60%, but the average is 30%. So if your employee cost is roughly 1/3 of the revenue that you make, by increasing what you pay your staff and getting the same in-kind return from them. So when you increase their pay, they're going to increase your sales. That's a smart move, because you're increasing the amount that you pay them, which means that they are now in turn going to return 3 times that in sales. If they cost 1/3 of the dollar, then every time that you increase that, you're increasing that 30 cents. They're giving you $1, right? And so that's going to make your profit better, because the dollar amount is going up. And even if your percentage stays the same, it stays, right on level. They're giving you the same amount of product, right? For the dollar amount. So your percentage stays the same. Even if it stays 30%, well, the sales are going up. To stay at 30%, sales have to go up, which means you're getting $1 for that 30 cents that you spent. That means everything is also going up dollar amount, but your percentages are doing better now because you're creating more sales doing everything else the same. So if just your payroll goes up, everything else stays the same, your profit will go up, right?
Yeah.
And so I tell people this all the time, like, don't focus on cutting costs. That's not what I'm talking. I want you to be more efficient with the dollars that you spend. And that's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So raises aren't a bad thing. In fact, I would argue if you do them correctly, raises are a great thing, because you're advancing your level, you're creating a better culture within your environment. Your people are more motivated to work harder, to produce more sales, all of the above, right? They can be really, really great things. If you're not tracking it, when you're just giving raises for no reason other than, I'm going to give you more money, but you're still going to have the same output, that's probably not good. So you just need to put it in line with being more efficient. I want to pay you more money so that the company makes more money type mentality, then that's going to work great. And if you can do that with all of your line items, all of your expenses, if those dollar amounts are going up, but your percentage of the revenue is going down, then your profit will have nowhere to go but up. It just gets better and better and better over time, because you're increasing those, but you're increasing the top. So if you have any positive profitability at all, that will just continue to go up. Right? It has no other place to go. That's just simple math. And so I love that. The biggest one that I use is marketing, and people will say, I just don't know. I don't know what my marketing does, blah, blah. Well, that's the problem.
Yeah.
It's not,
that's the problem.
It's not spending money on marketing. It's the problem. It's not knowing what you get. That's the problem. Right. And so if you know what you get, then you can track it and you can make sure that you're using it efficiently. And I tell people, this is a very simple calculation. If you have a 10% profit margin currently and your marketing is producing that, so that means for every dollar in marketing that you spend, it's producing $10, right? Simple math, 10%. So right now, if you are going to spend a marketing dollar, you need to beat a 10x return. For every dollar, you need to return more than $10 to improve your profit. Anything less than $10 is going to put you on a worse trajectory, right? It's very simple math. If we have a higher profit margin, then obviously we don't have to have as big of a spend, but that's the simple math. We need to make sure that we have a return on investment with our marketing dollars that exceeds our current profitability. And again, it's just math. Like it's very simple calculation. And I love what you said. I'm not an accountant, but I'm an entrepreneur, and I need to pay attention to the numbers. That's correct, 100%. You don't need to be an expert in this. You don't need to be a CPA. You don't need to be a high-level licensed accountant. You just have to pay attention to the numbers, and anything that you don't, and I will talk specifically to you because we don't know each other that well, but I can promise what I'm getting ready to say is true.
Yeah.
If you don't know something, you find out.
Oh yeah,
Would that be accurate?
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, for entrepreneurs, we have to do that. If we don't know it, we can't just gloss over it. You got to find it out, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be the expert, but you got to find it out. You have to educate yourself. You have to find out. I don't care if it's something that you don't like. I admitted on our previous show, I'm not a big fan of marketing. I don't really understand it. It's not really my genre, but I understand what happens there. I understand that doing this does this. I understand the ROI. I understand trends. So I had to become not necessarily an expert, but I had to become like informed on what it is so that I understood it. I still don't like it. Nothing against marketers, just not my juice. But I do understand it. So when I talk to people and I say, hey, it's not really my space, and they're kind of running into things, I can have an intelligent conversation with them about it. That's all it takes. You don't need to be the expert as an entrepreneur. You can't be the expert in all aspects of your business, but you do need to understand them. And if you can understand the numbers and you understand the simple math, then you're going to be fine. Like you're going to be able to track these things. And so again, kind of coming, first circle back to how we started, the profit is the real benchmark. 100%. If you're measuring your company by revenue, you're missing the mark. That's the brag. And I get it. That's what people ask. What's your business doing? What they're really asking is, what's your revenue, right? It's the brag. I understand it 100%, but if you're only focused on the brag, there's not going to be anything left over at the end of the day. The real flex is the profit that you get to keep, right? It's the 100%. Profit margin, man, I'm keeping 40 cents of every dollar my company makes. That's amazing.
That's amazing. That is amazing. I mean, I want to add something to it. So there's a couple of things I'm going to go back to. First of all, I think people are afraid of spending, because when they don't know, when they don't measure correctly. So when I first came into the business, when I first bought it, I looked at what was being done with the accounts, and they had a bookkeeper coming once or twice a month, and that was it. And they had external accountants. I'm like, who's doing the accounting? But one of the directors was doing the accounting. Are you an accountant? No, I'm not. And I'm not an accountant, so it just made no sense to me. I'm like, I don't get it. I'm not a dumb person, but I don't get this. This is not making sense to me. What about the numbers? And they're like, well, you want to increase the numbers. How do we? I'm like, I can't give you what percentage we need to increase our sales by or whatever until I have the numbers in front of me myself. I'm not an accountant. So,
Yeah.
so I said to him, okay, this looks like we need to have a management accountant. And I promise you that at that time they were working for me. I had the most resistant people as ever. They're like, we can't afford to have an accountant. Da, 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 da. And I said, my goodness, we can't afford not to have an accountant because I can't figure out what we're doing. You have external accountants for doing your year-end accounts, but that's not sufficient. You don't even have proper management accounts. I can't figure out for the life of me what our true costs are. You're telling me a third is cost, a third is labor, and a third is profit. But that's just your rough ideas. I don't see any concrete evidence for that. So anyway, I do what I want to do. So being the owner, I hired a management accountant, and then one of the people actually left, which is fine. The person who's dealing with the accounts, and realized why, because he made such a mess of things. It was unbelievable. We had payments we hadn't been refunded, and credit control was awful, and God knows whatever else. Anyway, we've got an amazing management accountant now, which I'm so glad I've got, and I pay them well. So we've got an amazing person who I'm happy to pay because he does his job amazingly, and he helps me understand, and we know where we are, and that's why we're on track. So the reason why we were able to turn things around really quickly and to do things as well as we have is because I have the right people in the right places, and so the right team members in place who I'm paying well, who are able to help me turn the company around, and that's money well invested as far as I'm concerned. So the first thing that, when people are afraid of investing, I think at times you can't afford not to pay, because if you don't pay the right people, you're going to lose out in the long run. And if you don't have the right information is power. If you don't have the right information, you've lost. That's the first point. Second point, when it comes to marketing and keeping an eye on numbers, that's exactly what I'm doing. So my area is, I am an expert in marketing and online marketing, but I can't, if I was doing that alone for the company, as we discussed on Friday, I'd be working in the business rather than on the business. So I chose on purpose to stay out of it. I've got a social media executive, which again, I was told we can't afford to hire. And I'm like, I can't afford not to. So I've hired him.
Yeah.
And along with the fact that I hired a company to do our telemarketing, another company to do our AdWords, another company to do a few things. So all of these were costs at the front, but come through. I knew that within 3 months, I would know if these companies are worth their weight in gold. And I have to say, from the 4 people, that my social media executive is brilliant. I can't fault him. He's doing an amazing job. And the AdWords are going great. One of the companies I'm not so sure about, because I can't see, because I'm measuring, I can't see the value they're bringing, and I'm giving them time, but I know what was come from them because I'm keeping an eye on the numbers. I know what we're spending on them. I know what time's being spent on them, and I know what money has been generated from them, and it's not sufficient, even though money has generated. So I can say, oh, we're getting, because we've been told, but we're getting leads from them. But how many of those leads have converted into sales? And does that suffice? And is that sufficient for us to match up with the money that we're spending on them? So I'm keeping an eye on both numbers. And I'm not delegating the task even to the management accountant. I'm doing it myself, as it's my business, my responsibility, and it's up to me to make sure that I'm happy with the services. And I have given them a little bit of time. I'll probably give them another 3 months, and then if not, so I'll fire them. Simple as that. But the point being, I am keeping an eye on it. I know exactly how much money we're spending on what marketing, how much of that revenue actually means profit, and does that profit cover the ad spend on that particular strategy? And that's how you're doing. It's not just that because it takes we're spending £10 on this particular AdWords and we've generated £10, so we're equal. No, we're not, because those £10 in revenue means we made £3 in profit. So we need to make at least £30 from that particular ad spend in order for me to cover that £10 spend. I'm aware of these things. I think this is why my business is doing well, because I'm making sure I keep an eye on that. Wouldn't you agree that that's more important?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was exactly, like, I love that, because that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, but you'll get that, right? Like when you don't understand, and people are just giving you data they're going to give it to you in the most favorable light they can possibly can. So they're like, oh, well, we gave you 10 pounds. You paid 10 pounds. We gave you 10 pounds. No, you didn't. You gave me 3, right? I gave you 10, you gave me 3.
Yeah.
Because that's the margin.
Yeah.
That's not sufficient. And I talk to people all the time, we met with this client, they were doing really well. Revenue was good. Profit just wasn't great. And so we go in and we look at it, and they were just way overdone. Their revenue per employee was absolutely horrible. If you don't know what revenue employee is, if you're listening, I've done multiple talks on this. Just Google it, you'll find it. But it's a great benchmark for your business. So revenue per employee, the dollar revenue per number of employees that you have. So we looked at it, it was horrible. So we go in, we look at it, had all of these employees that just really weren't doing anything. And so, I met with the owners. So there's 3 of them, and hey, what's going on? This, that, the other. Oh man, I just hate firing people. It's so bad. And, and they're all family and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, these family are stealing from you, like it's a bad situation, and I said, well, let's look at it. Let's look at the hard numbers. So we kind of go through it. Oh, but they're so great. And our clients really like them and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they're producing so much less than what you're paying them. It just doesn't make sense to do it. And so I said, what's the real reason, like, you don't like firing people? And they're like, well, I just don't really know what to say, blah, blah. I'm like, if you have the hard metrics and you said, I'm going to give them 3 months. If they can't produce, I'm going to let them go. That's not emotional. That's just the reality of the situation. I need you to be here. In 3 months, if you're not here, we have to separate, period. It's not emotional. It's not, I don't like you, like, you don't give me good, warm and fuzzies. It's, I need you to do this in 3 months. If you're not doing this, you're gone, period. So, that's what we use. We said, hey, okay, here's the metrics. They need to be at this. If they're at this in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, they stay because they're productive. If they're not, they get terminated. Do you feel comfortable having that conversation? Right? Because it's not now. You're not firing them now. It's not emotional. Do you have, yeah, I can do that. They're going to do it. They're amazing people. They're going to step up. Well, come to find out, they didn't. Most of those people did not, and so they had to replace those people, those family members, those hard metrics. And the first one is difficult. I get it, because they had stayed on way longer than they needed to by this point, right? So there is emotion there. But if you set it up from the beginning, here's the expectation. Here's the timeline of that expectation. At the end of this, if you're producing this or better, you stay. We're good. If you're not, you go, because you're not you might be the right person, but you're in the wrong seat, or you're the wrong person in the right seat. And I've got to put the right person in the right seat. So it takes the emotion out of it and gives you true benchmarks, true dollar pound amount. Sorry, I got to do the conversion. But you got
we do with dollars. That's fine. We can do with half and half. The world deals with dollars. We can deal with dollars as well.
Yeah, it's metrics, it's numbers. Like, the numbers matter. They're so important. And it's not just for the accounting and the finance. I love what you said. The marketing, it's still numbers, right? It's not emotional. If we base it on emotion, if you said, well, my social media person makes really good Instagram posts and I like them, they're great. Okay, well, if that's the only basis, then I'll take that job and I'm just going to post puppy videos 24/7, right? And everybody's going to love my channel, but it's not going to produce anything for the business, but it's going to be warm and fuzzy because it's puppy videos. That doesn't build business. That's not what it's about. It's the numbers. Are the posts producing an environment that gives us an ROI on what we're spending? That's the only thing that matters. You've got to get the emotion out of it. And you've done that successfully. So that's me talking to listeners, but you've done that. Like, you've taken the emotion out of it. I could hear it. You said, I'm going to keep it out 3 months. If it doesn't, it is what it is. Right? Very matter of fact. The emotion's out. You got to get it out. Like, I get it. Being an entrepreneur, building your baby, building your business, it can be an emotional environment. I completely understand that. I've been there. But because it is that, you have to take the emotion out of the other aspects, or it just becomes a big bubble of feelings, and that's not a successful business. I promise you, Amazon is not about the feelings. They're about delivering products to your door. They drive down. I probably doesn't do it anymore, but I bet at some point he would drive through neighborhoods and count the number of Amazon boxes that are sitting in people's front porches. I would do that if I was him. That would be awesome. Like, oh, there's an Amazon, there's an Amazon, there's an Amazon.
Literally, a lot of the time, not just one, 2, 3, 4 boxes in
Yes.
one half as well. Yeah, and when we get deliveries, so usually about 2, 3, 4 boxes. So there we
Oh
are.
yeah.
I'm going to go back to. I think that's very important, taking the emotions out. So I think something else. I think recently I'll give an example of what happened in our company. I'm always the nicest. I say I'm very nice and whatever else, and I'm always talking about team members and and so forth. I think recently my team members saw the other side of me. So we had this individual who had grievance with, because he felt he got his pay rise, but he wasn't happy that it wasn't sufficient. It wasn't the match with everybody else, but his experience is less, so he's paid based on experience. It wasn't anything. So he had the opportunity to come and speak to the line manager, and the line manager explained it. So he was okay with it, and he's fine. And it was all good. However, I think again we were going to do some accreditations, which he knew, which we discussed in our management team, and they said that he wouldn't be able to pass. That's why his name, because I suggested to them, like, what about him? And they said, no, he won't pass. So what was suggested was for him to do extra training, and for him to we submit him for that accreditation next year, once he's done the additional training, to be able to get to a certain level. So it wasn't ignored, it wasn't anything else. And I remember, because I'm very fond of this individual. I think he's a very young, nice young chap. So, but he got so annoyed with that, so annoyed. That he came in and the point is that he has his line manager, then he has the general manager, and then it's me. I don't deal with anything on purpose. I think I let them deal with it, and I generally give it to my general manager. I'm like, I'm not running the business, you are, so you deal with this day to day. You come to me if there's something you can't deal with. And I have said the team is amazing. They do deal with all of it. I hardly ever hear anything. But I just happened to be in the room, and he said, I'm here to speak to X, Y, and Z. I said, have you spoken to your line manager? He goes, no. I'm like, go and speak to him first. I think he wasn't expecting that from me, because I'm always known as the nice one, but I do stick to my boundaries.
Yeah.
I think next thing I heard was he spoke to the line manager, wasn't happy, and he gave his, because I'm resigning based on that. He just left. And everyone's like, oh, what should we do, and so forth. And he took our equipment out. We have he's a welder, so we have these helmets for these individuals. He took that as well. So I thought, okay, no one was expecting this. I'm like, time to come back right now. And he goes, no, we'll give it to him till, this was on a Thursday. They said, we'll wait for Monday. I'm like, why? That's my property. Bring it back right now. Yeah. And they said, okay, so what should we say? What if he doesn't? I said, tell him the Gull said, bring it back. We finish at 4:30. Bring it back before 4:30. Otherwise, I'll call the police and report it as theft, which it is.
Yeah.
I think they all look shocked, like, you would, that I would say something like this. And I was very serious about it, because I waited. And I said, I'm going to wait here until he comes. If he gets, great. I'm not going to take him. I'm not going to speak to him. That's not my property. That's for you to deal with. I'm out of it. But if he doesn't do it, I'll report to police, because it's my company, my property. And I think all of them were a bit shocked that I was the one who was talking so fondly of this individual, because I was generally fond, but I'm also not going to expect, like the warm fuzzy part. I'm not going to let someone, or my emotions fall because I think someone's a nice person or we get on well, whatever, rule over my company, and so therefore, I think by the time I left, he had returned, and he did say, I think the poor general manager had to listen to a lot of abuse, which again solidified the information, the thing that resignation was accepted. The guy's fired. We're not taking that person ever back. He's never going to come back here. No. The property was returned. It was in good order, and I left. And I think that kind of strict, side of me there's never been need for that. But there is no nonsense attitude. I think you have to have that, and realize that you have to have this. Coming back to the point, it doesn't matter who it is. That could have been a family member. It doesn't matter who it is. You have to have those strong boundaries and treat people with respect. But you have to understand your company, your profits matter. And if someone's going to misbehave, if someone's going to walk out, because literally when you walked out, that's going to hurt our production for this week. I know it is. It will happen. So I know for a fact that that's going to hit our revenue, and obviously ultimately a profit for that particular week. And we are obviously, manufacturing is quite tight. But I'm already thinking, okay, fine, I need to hire somebody else. I'll do it. But I think you have to have the foresight that you have to have people understanding that this is your business and you have to run it. And profits do matter. And
100%.
having the boundaries respected is very, very important. I think that quite
Yeah.
highlights the story that you had with the individual. If those people weren't performing, they had to leave. Or if someone
Yeah.
misbehaves, they have to leave. You can't have your emotions entitled, or because I think as a lot of the times I think entrepreneurs also want to be liked. I think I've seen that there's people pleasing on a lot of entrepreneurs, myself included.
Yep.
But you
Yeah.
have to put that to one side. I like people and I want people to like me, but not at the expense of my company, not at the expense of my boundaries.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I've gone through this with some, high level, owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and I will tell them, I'm like, really look, I don't want a blanket answer. I want you to give me a real answer to this. But if replacing yourself makes your business more profitable, more successful, all the other stuff, if pulling yourself out, replacing yourself is a net win for the company, it's going to produce more, it's going to do better, it's going to grow faster, all this other stuff. Would you replace yourself? Right. And that's a hard question to ask.
Yeah.
But if the answer is yes, why would you not hold every single person that comes after you to the same standard? And the reality is like, to me, it's a yes every time because I've done it. I've replaced myself, right? And I love it, right? Do it one time, I promise you, you'll want to do it again. To all your listeners, I promise you, like it is very freeing to separate yourself and then see your company continue to do well when you're not there, and you can focus on other things. It's great. So it's scary the first time, but if you do it right, it's worth every penny. But if you can do that, hold everybody else to that same standard, because the reality is we are all replaceable, right? All of us from the CEO down, they're all replaceable. And the reality is like, once you're gone, somebody else will fill that void. It's a short-term loss for a long-term gain, right?
Yeah.
And I know production's going to fall because he's gone. That's going to be an issue, but it's a short-term issue, right? It's a very small, yeah. And now somebody else comes in, and I would argue, I don't know the math behind this, but I would say 80% of the time, probably more than that, the person that replaces the person that left is a better fit, And so when that person leaves, you have a better definition of who that person needs to be because you've seen the good, the bad, you've learned a lot more about that position. And so when you replace it, you have a better definition, you have a better visual, you have a better avatar of who needs to be there, and you're going to hire the person that more closely relates to that. And so that person that comes in is a better replacement, which means that long-term, you've benefited the company by eliminating that position, taking that short-term loss to put a better person, a more right person in the right seat that will allow the company to grow, scale, be better than it was prior to that. And so, and I've had this conversation with employees before, like, hey, I don't mean to be blunt, but like, if you decide to leave, if this is something you want to do, all I can do is wish you luck because nobody's going to beg you to come back, right? Once you leave, you're gone. Don't leave hoping somebody's going to call you and say, the company can't do it without you. We're all lost. Like, I've cried myself to sleep the last 10 nights in a row because you're not here. That conversation is not going to happen. So all I can do is wish you luck and wish you the best, And if you're listening and you hate firing employees, if you can be more upfront and you can be more direct with the metrics that need to happen, and you can have regular conversations with them, it's going to be easier. And then if you want the real superpower, my wife gives me crap all the time. She says my superpower is firing people because I am really good at it. But it's because like I have multiple conversations. I will coach you right out the door. People hear me say it all the time. I will coach you right out the door. I will do everything I can to make you successful. If it doesn't work, the last conversation we have is how do you go from here to your next opportunity? And because of that, I have tons of people that I have fired and we are still friends. Like we still talk outside of that. I have multiple people that I correspond with on a regular basis because they have found success after my organization because I was not the right fit for them. They needed to be somewhere else. And I helped them to make that transition. And so because of that, I have zero problem firing people. It doesn't bother me at all because it's never uncomfortable. It's always about the numbers. It's always about the fit. And then at the end, it's, hey, what's the next opportunity? How can I help you to move on to your next opportunity. If you can do that, it's easy. Terminating people is easy because the emotion's gone.
Absolutely. So we're going to wrap this up. We've taken longer than we intended again, but it's a fantastic conversation. We always have fun. So tell again, Byron, where can we find you? How can we connect with you on the internet?
Yeah. So hit us up on CFO.AF. All the social media platforms are the same. It's CFO.AF, Chief Financial Officer AF. We all know what AF stands for. So hit us up on the website, www.cfoaf.com, or any of the social medias. I am Facebook age, so I am more active on Facebook. But if you're Instagram or any of the rest of them, we're on those as well. So just hit us up, CFO.AF. Is the name of the company. It's the initials. It's where you can find us.
Wonderful. So if you are listening to us on the podcast, the link that Byron has just mentioned will be in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, then down below in the description section, we'll have the links for him to go check him out and see how he can help you. Remember, he is in the US, so he is primarily based for the US market. However, a lot of the principles that he teaches do apply across the globe. I myself know that the things we've been speaking about on Friday Feature and again today are applicable here just as much as the US. So do check him out if you think he can support you and see how he can help you build a better business. But apart from that, thank you so much, Byron. It's been a fantastic conversation again, and we should do this again. But thank you so much for today.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. Had a blast.
And thank you for listening to me and Byron today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull Khan signing off. Take care and bye for now.